All right, I just had recorded a 60-minute video that for some reason the audio wasn't recorded. I don't know why, but I just had a fucking breakdown. Got pissed off. But let's do this again. Let's try this again. I wanted to make a video about my 2022-2023 lawsuit that I went over from the end of 2022 to the end of 2023. So it lasted a full year, a little over a year as well. So it all started when I received the first email. I remember it vividly. I was on the train and I had just parted ways from my colleagues at the time. So I was checking my email on the train and I saw this very special email from a lawyer. And I was very confused. I was like, what is this? So I opened it up and I saw that the buyer to my previous apartment wanted to sue me because he considered that I'd been dishonest with certain things in the agreement. And I was in shock. I was like, what the hell is this? Like the anxiety just started overflowing and the nerves and everything. I was like, what the hell is happening? And this was right before a road trip to the south of Sweden with my girlfriend. So it was just a few hours before I was going home, packing a bag, and then we were going to rent a car and drive all the way down there. So it wasn't the best start to that trip, if I'm being honest. Like, it was horrible. Like, I just had anxiety through the entirety of it. I had anxiety and confusion the entire trip because it was in the middle of the weekend as well. So I couldn't contact anyone. I couldn't get a hold of any lawyers, my realtor, or anyone. So all I could do that weekend was do my research, check up on some laws, some regulations to see if any laws were in my favor or on the buyer's favor. So I was very restricted that weekend. I couldn't do anything. I just had to wait. Basically, I just had to wait for the weekend to end and for the trip to end. Come Monday, then I could actually start learning more and gathering more information and more context. So I came to that realization during the trip, and I was like, might as well enjoy the trip and be somewhat present because I can't do anything right now. I can just do some research. There's no use in being anxious and confused. I was gonna be that regardless, but for me, I felt like let's just wait till Monday and then deal with it then. Come Monday, I initiated next steps. I called my realtor for context. I called several lawyers for advice and guidance, just to get more context in this whole matter and see what it's about. And all of them said the same thing. Based on the information that I gave them, they said, you have done nothing wrong. You probably have nothing to worry about. They're probably not going to take this any further once they see the information you give them in the coming next days. So that was reassuring. So I decided to hire my own lawyer to write a counter letter to battle the lawsuit and hopefully de-escalate the lawsuit and hope for it to not continue. And obviously that didn't happen. There was no backing out from either party. We had our first face-to-face settlement negotiation on the 18th of April 2023. And the whole purpose of this settlement negotiation was to settle the lawsuit for a specific fee. At first, I didn't want to settle for anything, but eventually, with the advice of my lawyer and his opinion, I decided to, be willing to settle for 100,000 Swedish crowns, but my counterparty was willing to settle for a minimum of 350,000 Swedish crowns. So no settlement took place. We finalized the court date, and then we moved on with the date. Then we came to the evidence collection stage. At this stage, I just tried to remain unfazed, focus on my work and my self improvement. There was a bit of back and forth between myself and my lawyer, but not much, to be honest. It was just evidence collection. Obviously, I didn't do the evidence collection. I hired my lawyers to do that for me. So I just decided to be chill during this period. There was nothing to do. There wasn't much to do during this period. All I could do was just focus on myself, focus on my work, focus on the things that I could control. I had plans of moving out right after I sold my apartment, but obviously those things that was put on hold because I was in a financial sensitive situation, so I didn't want to buy a new apartment or rent a new apartment. So I decided to live with my mom during that period to not put myself in any financial hurdles. And eventually, we got to the preliminary court date, which was on September, the 19th of September, but that date got postponed. So that got postponed another 2 months. which was annoying. So my plans to move out, my plans um, to advance my life were postponed even more. So that was a bit frustrating. But eventually, we got to court November 22nd, if I remember correctly. Nerves and anxiety was just the tip of the iceberg. Um, I was very nervous. I didn't know what to expect. It was very new. As you can imagine, not a lot of people have gotten sued in their lifetime. So it's a very special experience. You don't know what to expect. You can't relate to it with anyone that you know at least, because no one that you know has most likely gone through that before. So it was confusing, lots of nerves, lots of anxiety. The second negotiation took hours. And the second negotiation, obviously, the first one was in April. This was the second one. We tried to negotiate for a second time just to settle the lawsuit once and for all. And after a lot of back and forth, I'm talking hours and hours of back and forth, I got to a point where I was willing to settle for 230,000 Swedish crowns. I wasn't comfortable doing it, but if it meant, settling the case, I would do it. I would be willing to do it, but it was a lot of money. It's like 23 grand. So for me, that's a lot. And especially at that time as well. And the counterparty was willing to settle for a minimum of 265K. So we were almost there. We were almost at break even and almost at an agreement, but I wasn't willing to push it up even further. He wasn't willing to go down further than that. So there was no settlement, and at that point there was no backing out, and we started interrogations. And his lawyer, first my lawyer interrogated him, asked him some questions, and he actually caught him red-handed quite a few times, which was beautiful to see. Then his lawyer asked me questions. It didn't manage to catch me red-handed. I felt like I was pretty prepared. I had good answers. I was very quick about my answers as well. And at the end of it, I felt like I fumbled a little bit with my stumbling and maybe oversharing a few details. But my lawyer reassured me that I did nothing wrong, that I handled everything perfectly, basically. So that was the end of day one. Then we came to day two, started interrogating the witnesses. We had two witnesses on each party. That took a few hours. They just asked them questions to gather more information, try to catch them red handed again. My lawyer was able to do that a couple of times. Again, beautiful to see. Master at his craft, obviously. After that, it was a case summary between both parties. Took a couple of hours just to give the summarized information to the judge. Then we concluded court, and that was the end of court. Now I was awaiting the court judgment, which was supposed to arrive 3 weeks after that, which was on the 14th of December 2023. It's supposed to say 2023 here, not 2024, but you get the point. And thankfully, the court decided in my favor. So I won the case, as I believed that I would, since I had done nothing wrong. Just to give you guys some context before I continue with this presentation, the court was basically about a disagreement in the whole agreement, where the counterparty considered that I had been dishonest with a specific detail in the agreement, being a flaw in the apartment, which was high levels of radon. So the radon levels were slightly above reference. So radon is a toxic gas that appears in most buildings all around the world. It's very normal for radon to appear in buildings, in houses, apartments, whatever. And they were slightly elevated, that was true, but we had informed the buyer in advance prior to him signing all the agreements and buying the apartment. He just hadn't done his research, therefore, he wanted to sue. And I believe that he found the apartment to be a bad investment, and that's why he wanted to sue as well, to not have to go through a sales process, knowing how long it would take and him losing money and all that. So I think that's why he decided to sue. But basically, that was what the case was about: high levels of radon, which were informed about prior to him buying the apartment. So we hadn't been dishonest, we had done everything correctly, which the judge was able to see. And once I read that email that I got on the 14th of December 2024, I got feelings of euphoria and relief. It was like a huge weight lifted on my shoulders, a whole year of just waiting for this to finalize. And eventually it did, finally. And after that, obviously, the buyer has, or the losing party has a an appeal window, a 3 week appeal window where they can actually appeal the judgment. And I was anticipating a likely appeal because if I lost, I would have done the same because at that point you don't have much to lose. So I was waiting for a an appeal. So I wasn't fully relaxed once I got the judgment. I knew, okay, there is a high chance he's going to appeal, and I was just waiting. And eventually, there was no appeal, and that's when I knew I had achieved freedom for this. I was completely free. At this point, I could do whatever I wanted, and I was done. It was all done. Everything was finalized. No more worry, no more bullshit. It was done. So that was my little rant about my 2022-2023 lawsuit. Just to finalize this whole presentation, I just wanted to share what I learned from this. So when I bought the apartment, I knew that the apartment was part of a housing cooperative and an apartment complex that was in financial shambles. But I decided to buy it anyways because of impulse and emotions that drove me to make the decision, the purchase, which was wrong. I should have never bought that apartment. The reason I did it as well is because it's very expensive to find a decent apartment in the Stockholm area in Sweden. Living in Stockholm, and not just in Stockholm, around Stockholm as well, with all the communications and being able to get into Stockholm efficiently, is very expensive. You're not going to get a good apartment for a decent price. You're going to have to pay a lot of fucking money just to get a decent apartment. And I found an apartment that was quite good, and it wasn't too expensive either. So I decided to go for it. But my gut was telling me to not do it, but I still did it. And the lesson I learned is to never act on impulse, never act on emotions, just act on facts, act on actual reality and what the objective fact is. Do not act on emotions. Actually think about what the fuck you're doing. Be smart. Don't be emotional. That's it. So yeah, my little rant about my lawsuit. Thank you for tuning in all the way to the end. It was something I've been waiting to talk about this for a long time. Obviously, I couldn't do it prior to this because the case was ongoing. I didn't want to interfere with anything. But right now, obviously, everything's done, so I could talk about it. So I'm glad you listened all the way to the end. Thank you for doing so. If you have the opportunity to just like the video and subscribe, that would mean the world to me. And yeah, I can't wait to see you on the next video. And yeah, it's gonna come tomorrow. Cheers, guys. Thank you.